Okay, welcome. We are so excited to be hearing from you today. So I am just going to introduce you, then I'm just going to allow you to take over, ma'am.
Cool.
We are excited. All right, ladies. So Sarah Kandolo is a research assistant at the University of Pretoria while pursuing her Master of Science, in Food Science. She has earned both her undergraduate and honors degrees in the same institution and in the same field. Sarah Kandolo is passionate and committed to Africa and its diversity of multidisciplinary opportunities. She is passionate about researching ancient African grains and pulses because of their functional, nutritional, and health benefits. In July of 2022, she, together with her three friends, launched a project called #TalkAboutHer. The ladies traveled throughout 5 African countries, namely South Africa, Zimbabwe, Zambia, Malawi, Tanzania, and Kenya. And their project is aimed at recognizing the essential role that African women play in communities, in African communities. So #TalkAboutHer demonstrated how African women are major game changers in Africa and in the world, as well as how these women strengthen their communities by serving them as well as serving others, ensuring that everyone achieves their full potential. Aside from research and aside from leadership ventures, Sarah enjoys spending time with her family and her friends. She also loves playing with her dogs, and she loves building puzzles and discovering new African teas. So, ladies, virtual applause, virtual celebrations. Please, welcome our speaker for today. Her name is Sarah Kandolo. Welcome, Sarah, and over to you.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Girleada, and your team for just offering me the platform to speak. My bio was very broad. Like you had mentioned, that I am a researcher and I'm completing my master's studies. But I want to just highlight especially the project we undertook last year, which spills out into this year as well. And so #TalkAboutHer started with a group of my friends, and we had always wondered how come African women aren't given the spotlight? How come they are oftentimes overlooked? And we decided, let's sit down and chat amongst ourselves and really look within ourselves, because our circles aren't that wide, if I could call it that. We had initially discovered that, hang on, our mothers and our grandmothers and our aunts all have contributed to our development and our growth, and also our community's development and growth. Some of them have even established some things back at home. And we had spoken to our local church where we all fellowship, and we were like, we approached them with the project, and they were very keen on it, and they supported us and linked us with the necessary people at the university, like the vice chancellors, sports coordinators, junior Tucky directors, and transformation directors, etc. And we were all excited, but we were given the very big challenge to fundraise. Uh, I think we're all familiar with the difficulty of fundraising and how challenging it is. But our project leader, which is our main or senior pastor at the church, challenged us to really push towards the goal and look at it not from a perspective of I am going, but you are sponsoring me to not only broaden my horizon, but open my eyes to see the potential of what I can become. So in essence, our fundraising was from a perspective of you sponsoring me or you donating towards the project so that I can tell not only my story, but all other stories of the women we will come across. So the fundraising began in February when all the other students were back, and it took about I think 3 months to fundraise. We all had to fundraise 30K. The 30K involved fuel, accommodation, food. Some had to pay visas, like myself. I had to pay certain visas, etc. And we also had to pay road permits and all those administrative stuff that will permit you to actually drive on the road. We had initially started with 8 girls, and because the challenge of fundraising, it's not comfortable. Let's be honest, it's not something that we wake up to and be like, yes, I'm going to champion on the fundraising and I'm going to put a brave smile towards it. It was very difficult. I personally struggled with having to ask close family members for money. I know in my culture, to ask for money, there's that whole notion of, oh, maybe you're poor or something. But I immediately had to step out of myself and realize, hang on, they're not sponsoring me to live a lavish lifestyle. They're sponsoring me to permit myself, or to permit me rather, to broaden my horizon, to open my eyes to the potential of what Africa is all about. So we initially had to come up with a proposal, and we did a lot of research on pros and cons of how people perceive Africa and how people specifically perceive African women. And when we had drafted our proposal, our intention was to highlight the beauty of African women and how they are, like you had said in the bio, pioneers. Most African women, sometimes most of them are underdogs. And we've come to realize that actually this is our driving point. This is our motive. This is our intention. We want to highlight the fact that women are not inferior, women are not shallow, women are actually at the forefront, but they prefer not being at the forefront because that's not their aim. They want to see communities thrive, they want to see individuals thrive, and they are more of a servanthood kind of leadership than it is of a power hungry or pioneer moving forward, all about them kind of mission. So we had drafted the proposal, and almost every other company that we had approached was very keen on assisting us. After the 3 months of gruesome fundraising, we ended up having to drop down to just 4 girls. So it was very interesting. I'm just playing in my mind how very interesting and pressing it was for every other girl who unfortunately didn't make the cut, because it's almost as if with the challenge of fundraising, we had to step out of ourselves. And the reason why I stress the whole stepping out of ourselves is because you're representing yourself, but you're representing the team, you're representing the project and what you stand for. And that for me was something that I learned through the process of fundraising. It was tough. Approaching even my head of department was a difficult challenge for me, because I'm so used to just being in the department and being just a student with a student number going about. But this time we were pushed to approach people who have greater influences. I'm also fortunate to be part of a society that is national, and I approached them via email. And throughout the process, I was just pushing for the project and what I stand for and my beliefs. Majority of the people took it with open arms. We've had a lot of rejections. Some were thinking, oh, it's just a bunch of girls just trying to push a lavish lifestyle. But hey, you will come across pros and cons, negatives and positives. But we kept on pressing on. We kept on moving forward. We ended up being endorsed by the University of Pretoria and the several directors of transformation, student support. We also got an insert at the Tux FM. And interestingly, a few weeks before we embarked on the journey, we had approached several camera companies. And before we got a big break, we got several rejections. I'm not going to mention the companies that rejected us, but I'll highlight the company that really bought our idea and were very keen and happy to just permit us to videograph and photograph every other thing that we're going to do. So Canon was very fortunate to, we were very fortunate to be sponsored by Canon. They weren't dealing with any monetary kind of sponsorships, but they were more keen on giving us sort of like an equipment so that we can document and create memories. And that was just the icing on the cake. We were so fortunate to have just them believe in us, but also believing more so in the project and what they saw. So with that, we were able to document, we were able to videograph certain interviews that we carried. We were also able to videograph interactions we had with students at schools. So that happened. We were all stoked, so excited. The four of us, including our project leader, went on the trip. And I must say, Africa is beautiful. The reception is lovely. Guys, you don't want to miss this opportunity. If you have that opportunity to just pack a bag and go in Africa, please do so. It is far much more safer than here in SA. None of us experienced any gender-based violence, any catcalling on the streets. We've had the privilege to walk around in flea markets and things like that on our own, and we felt very safe. Initially, the first, I'd say 5 to 7 days, we were a bit skeptic because, I mean, we are nowhere from home. Nobody knows us. It's just a bunch of girls. Most of the time, the project leader was not around because he was our driver. So most of the time when we landed at a place of accommodation, he would just rest, but we were just allowed to just go out. And when we had stepped out, it was a thing of, are we going to choose to be scared, or are we going to go and socialize and interact with people of different cultures, people of different language and stuff like that? So after the week of our walls being broken, we eventually stepped out, and yeah, it's almost as if the the caterpillar moment in that incubator had just broken and set free. And when we engaged with women of different cultures, women of different sort of like social classes, we were able to just see, hang on, each of them has a story to tell. Each of them can contribute and has contributed to any and everybody's upbringing and development. We were fortunate enough to meet a lady who was running a pharmacy in Zambia. And she unfortunately had lost her husband a couple of years back, but she didn't look at her situation as something to just sort of like dwell in and lick her wounds. But she told herself that maybe I am bigger than that. Yes, I might have lost someone very dear to me, but I have two young girls who are looking up to me. So why not pick myself up, dust myself down, and carry on? She was very fortunate enough to have her mother and her grandmother and her sisters just sort of like encourage her. And most of the times, what we saw is women were encouraged, especially in the faith. And when you're encouraged in your spiritual being, sort of like your exterior is also radiating and is allowed to break free, is allowed to really just be somebody. And when we engaged with another mother who was raising, I think, about 12 children and several grandchildren and many other children in the village in Malawi, she just explained that her driving force is to see other people thrive, is to see other people grow. And that was the kind of servanthood and leadership we found in Africa. It's not one that pushes its own agenda. It's not one that comes with the power motive. It's one that serves. It's one that's gentle. It's one that is kind. It's one that is very influential in a subtle way, but that subtleness grows and it influences intrinsically, and then that on the exterior shows. So we were very, very fortunate to see that. And when we had gotten back after the 3 weeks, it was, yeah, it was very, very enlightening to see how different the West will characterize leadership compared to how Africans characterize leadership. And we had an opportunity to speak at, or to write an article at the university newspaper. One thing that we highlighted was women can lead. Women lead with their nurturing characteristics, their loving characteristics. They lead with that gentleness and that quietness, that influence that comes in a subtle way. And that was what was beautiful about the trip and how it impacted me and my friends. It can go on for generations. Not to say the trip didn't have any challenges, but we had experienced obviously certain things like getting in a small mini accident. We bumped the truck on the side, but it was fun. We were cool. But I think the biggest challenge was our mindset. We had to tell ourselves that we cannot go on the rest of this trip being scared or feeling inferior because we're in a foreign land. No, we need to break free, step out of our comfort zone. And that's oftentimes what we had learned. There will be times where we had to rise very, very early to miss the traffic. So in Africa, the roads we took were very much filled with trucks and people transporting things and whatnot. And in order for you to avoid that, you had to rise early. But just that on its own, rising up early was a matter of, I'm gonna rise early. But most people aren't morning people. So you saw people who were grumpy and had a slight attitude, but you're riding with these people for a good 3 to 3.5 weeks, and you have a choice to either be grumpy and moody the whole day and destroy everyone's mood, or break out of that and step out of your comfort zone and really absorb what you are seeing, really absorb who you are with, and really absorb especially the people we interacted with. So I really encourage every young lady on this meeting to not shy away from breaking free, not shy away from stepping out of your comfort zone, wherever you are, whether it be at school, at work, at home, um, social gatherings, to really be your authentic self and knowing who you are intrinsically. And from that intrinsic perspective, you'll start radiating and glowing from an external perspective. Look, oftentimes we see change exteriorly, but we don't have the opportunity to actually sit down with most people, especially most women, and ask them, how did you change? But they would simply tell us, it's what's inside of me that matters. It's how do I break free from my internal perspective? How do I break free from my internal inferiority? How do I push boundaries? Because the mind has a lot of boundaries, and we need to sort of like teach ourselves and also expose ourselves to people who have had those opportunities to break free and really just absorb from them, but also realize that our greatest our greatest potential is when it starts from inside. It's when we break free internally. Then the exterior will make so much sense. The exterior will be so radiating and beautiful that it will just sort of like spill out to other people. And that's what we had seen with the African women leaders. And that is what we had even themed as authentic, because that in itself, different countries had different countries, and the different women we had come across in those different countries were just so authentically themselves. They were so authentically radiant. They were so authentically beautiful. And we were very fortunate to see that and experience that and just be able to impact our lives and also those people we engage with, those other ladies we have the opportunity to engage with, and just really see how the influence of internal change, internal radiance can just really illuminate on the external. And I really hope that what I've shared, though for a little while, impacts any and all of you in this meeting. Because one thing that I realized is we have a lot of setbacks, and the setbacks aren't those external. The setbacks are those things we experience inside of our minds, inside of our hearts, inside of our being. And oftentimes that prevents us from being our authentic self. That prevents us from being who we truly are in our social settings. So when we break free from that, when we break free from those internal boundaries, those internal pits, if I could call them that, then eventually outside will make so much sense. Outside would radiate so beautifully without even you realizing it. So there's a lot of mining we need to do as women. in our different settings. And mining only starts in the dark. It only starts inside, intrinsically. And I strongly encourage each one of us to really do a lot of introspect. And in that introspection, engage with other women whom you deem have had an impact on you. And not only asking in the positive light, but also asking those who have suffered, because through suffering, I believe there's so much to learn from women who've suffered, who've seen the whole mile, who have experienced the whole mile. And just being able to expose yourself to both the positives and the negatives, and really doing the internal mining will enable you to be sort of like a better human being to those around you. Because one thing we also noticed is every person, whether they realize it or not, really depended on the women who had influenced them, and really sort of like were able to give thanks to them at the end of their journey, or at the end of how they had grown, to really just be able to highlight and encourage others to seek that sort of like women council, if I could call it that. But I thank you so much for the opportunity. Thank you for just giving me the platform to share my experience. And I hope that what I've shared, though short and brief, will encourage you guys to go out there and break free from your internal mindset, break free from your internal inferiority, your internal selflessness, and just really be your authentic self. And authenticity, I believe, and my team and I believe, that it starts from the internal, and then on the out and the exterior, it just radiates on its own without even you realizing. That's the beauty about authentic leadership. It starts internally. It starts with the mining, the dealing with the darkness, the dealing with the limitations, and then on the exterior, it breaks free without even you realizing it. So thank you so much, Girleada.
Wow. Wow, wow, wow. I see their hand. The ladies are just clapping, clapping, clapping. Because Sarah, that was just amazing. That was absolutely, absolutely beautiful, absolutely brilliant. And the crazy thing is, just before you stepped in, some of the points that we you touched on are the points that we were actually discussing. So it's just you just placed the stamp of approval on everything. And I love the fact that the very first sentence you said was, "Let us look into ourselves." And I believe that even as we step into this Project Me pillar, that is exactly what we will be doing with the ladies. So thank you so much. That was a brilliant, brilliant, brilliant delivery of your speech. We honor you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Ladies, please celebrate Sarah. You can also just be like, I don't know, say something in the chat. Say something, say something. So thank you so much. I just wanna ask, if do the participants have any questions for Sarah? Do you guys have any questions or anything that you want to say to her? I mean, after that amazing talk that she just delivered, is there anything you'd like to say? I don't see any hands. Just give me one moment. Hannah? Okay, I thought I saw your hand was up. But Sarah, in the chat box, people are just like, powerful. I'm so motivated. I'm so encouraged. Thank you, Sarah. This was so inspiring. Okay, I see Nobuthe's hand is up. Please go ahead, Nobuthe.
Hi, Sarah. How are you?
I'm well, thanks. And you, Nobuthe?
I'm okay. I love what you mentioned about stepping out of yourself and also breaking free eternally. I wanted to ask, what are some practical ways that one can sort of not get over, but work through those internal boundaries? And what are practical ways that one can break free internally first?
Okay, so for me, I'm a very big person on the spiritual side. So I fellowship at a local church, and I purposefully expose myself to the women in the church. And majority of the friends that I have now are in different social classes. Some of them are young moms, some of them are old moms, some of them are single women who are late in their age. Some of them are newlyweds, and some of them are obviously the young girls. But I purposefully expose myself to those kinds of women so that I am able to learn from them. A typical example would be I'm quite late in my 20s, and I'm still single. Oftentimes what tends to happen with being late in your age and as a single individual, you get these external influences of society telling you, oh, by this age you're supposed to be here and there, but I'm not. And so I've drawn a keen interest to the women who are in their late 30s and are not married. And I've just been encouraged by them to know who you are and not be influenced by social media or your social interactions because someone is running their race this way. Now all of a sudden you should be running the race the same way. It wouldn't make sense. So they would strongly encourage me, no, run your race as purposefully and as internally as you can. And what that means to me is being focused on my race, being focused on how I can contribute to whatever I'm working with or whatever social influence I can have to the people around me. Another example would be exposing myself to women who are newlyweds, and they would say that, hey, it's not easy. Enjoy your singleness while you can. And that for me, it just means that I must purposefully and enjoyfully run my race. As hard as it will get, as difficult as it will get, that's just the beauty about running your race. Running it, you will get defeated, you will get challenged from all sorts of spheres of life. That's just the way it is. That's just the way it's modeled and built. But never let whatever other people are doing or going through always be your story. I oftentimes tell my friends that are married that I'm actually enjoying the single life. Hey, I'm traveling. I don't have to, I don't have to. Yeah, but it's one of those things where I also try and find the humor of where I am, and in a sense know that running my race is very, very important to me, because as an individual I have a purpose, I have a mean in this life, and I need to sort of like work towards that and not allow whatever everyone else is doing sort of like get to me, because each race is unique, each race is different. And it's just a matter of us realizing and knowing that when you choose to purposefully run your race, you choose to do so because you know that this race was set out for you, it was built for you. There will be difficulties, there will be challenges, but like every other thing, you have a choice whether to accept those challenges, outgrow those challenges, and be a better person on the other end. Because I'm telling you, the person I was entering, for example, my master's degree, compared to the person I will become finishing it, are two different people. And that on its own is growth. So if you seek growth by looking outside of yourselves and being encouraged by the women around you and the males as well, the people who have influenced you, the people who have contributed to your growth, and however you choose to look at it, always know that your race was built for you, it was set out for you, it was designed for you, and you need to make that decision to run it purposefully for you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Absolutely beautiful. Tana, over to you, ma'am.
Okay, so I wanted to thank you, Sarah. So I just wanted to ask, how have you managed to balance your school, your work, and all the projects that you're currently running, how have you managed to balance your work and also to balance the master's program that you're currently undertaking?
Thank you for your question. Yeah, it's not easy. I'll be very honest. Oftentimes I feel like hiding, but what good would it do to me if I chose to hide? I recently started working, and I always thought, I might as well do it now so that I get a feel and understanding of what it will be like when I finish and complete my studies. But with the other projects, I truly encourage you to be part of one or two projects that will enable growth. Oftentimes we see at school that school can be very limiting. Varsity can only give you a certain means to sort of like grow, and oftentimes it does that theoretically. But I was always one of those people who would thrive to be more than just what I know in the books. And so at my local church, there will always oftentimes be several projects that they would need people to partake in. One of them was the Africa trip. I am still part of the technical side at church. And there's so many growth points that I am discovering and sort of like navigating through. And I'm very grateful to be part of such small projects. Yes, they have their intensities, but it's something that I'm choosing to force myself to be part of so that I can grow. Because every day you will find that you have a choice to wallow in your limitations and not grow, or to set free and grow, to break free and grow, to be a better person than you were yesterday. And oftentimes what I also noticed is in a week, so much can happen. So much can happen externally with my studies, with work, but so much is happening every day internally. And oftentimes I tell people, your faith is what will drive you to really be better and do more, and not wallow in, oh, there's so much that I have to do. Oh, there's just so much that the overwhelming feeling will always be there. But you have a choice with the influence of your faith to really catapult you to making the right decisions, making sure that by the end of the day, I would have accomplished something. So I will be honest, it's not easy. Every day is a fight, but I have to choose to fight it purposefully with the element of my faith just driving me and pushing me to want to outgrow my difficulties, outgrow my challenges. And oftentimes the challenges are not necessarily external, but they're internal. I'd find myself waking up and I have a choice. Do I choose to rise early, start my day early, or do I choose to sit in bed, especially with the winter approaching? Oftentimes you tend to sit in bed till late, but you realize that other people need me, and I need to be sort of like a better version of myself in the early morning, so that whoever needs my attention or whoever needs assistance from me, I can give them the best version of myself. So yeah.
Absolutely beautiful. Thank you so much for that, Sarah. Ladies, unfortunately, I cannot take any further questions. However, if you have questions for Sarah, you can put them up in the chat box. I think we will be able to send them to her and she'll be able to answer you. But thank you so much. I think one of the things that I've taken out from all the things that you've said is that do not limit yourself, allow yourself to break free, be intentional, be purposeful, especially when it comes to exposing yourself to environments and atmospheres that actually propel you towards the direction of growth. It's all your responsibility. And it's exactly what you just said now, that you choose, you have a choice. Every day is a fight. And trust me, you ladies, every day is a fight for each and every one of us. but we all have a choice, you know?
Yeah.
And so, yeah, thank you so much. Before I let you go, Sarah, before we let you go, rather, could you just please tell us how we can connect with you, how the ladies, how the participants and the facilitators can connect with you? Are you on social media? Are you on LinkedIn? How can we get a hold of you?
Yes, I am on LinkedIn. I think LinkedIn is my most active social platform, but I can also distribute my email address. I'm not sure if my cell phone number would work as well. Those are the three social medias that I prefer using because I'm quite active on all of them. I am also happy to chat when time allows, because oftentimes we tend to get so busy, and chatting or being on the phone oftentimes can be distractive, but I will try my best to, if I can, extend my email address and cell phone number and my LinkedIn profile as well. That would work well. Yeah.
Absolutely. I don't know what are you more comfortable with, dropping it in the chat box, or you can just call it out for us, and I believe we have notepads and papers and pens. You can just
I'll drop it in the chat box. Yes, let's do that.
All right, thank you so much, Sarah. Thank you, ladies. We can all unmute and say thank you, Sarah. Bye, Sarah. We are inspired by you, Sarah. Whatever you want to say. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Sarah.
Thank you,
Very nice.
Sarah. Thank
Can
we do a group photo?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, let's do that. Miss McClough, if you can just kindly take a picture of us if you can, please. Can everybody switch on their cameras and big smiles? Let me see if I can. Big smiles. 1 second, 1 second, 1 second. Is everyone smiling? Okay. There we go. Right.
Awesome. I'll be happy to receive it. Thank you so much, ladies, for the opportunity.
Thank you so much, Sarah. Have a good rest of your day.
Same to you. Same to you, ladies. Bye-bye.
Bye. All right. I hope that everybody was inspired. Okay, so I took the picture, Miss McClough. No worries. I hope everybody was inspired by